Hey class, hope you guys are doing well. Hey, the last few classes we've been talking about ways that big tech corporations collect data on us, collect data on you, on me. We've talked about data trails, the data trails that we leave electronically through our cell phones and computers and GPS and other ways. Well, one of the things that those big tech companies do is they collect all that data, they compile it, and then they hired data scientists to organize it. And so today we're going to start to learn some of the concepts of the data scientists and the way that they organize that data. So we're going to learn something called data structures. I'm going to give you some basic vocabulary, some statistical vocabulary. So let's go ahead and get started. You have a handout which you will be following along. Let me share my screen with you. Okay. All right, so data structures. What is data and how do we display it? Well, we've already started to learn what data is, but I'm going to give you a definition here to get started. So data is any type of information or observations that are gathered and recorded. Remember, data has to be recorded somehow, recorded electronically or written down. If we're just walking through the park and we're watching children play in the park, or watching a group of people play basketball, that's not data. It's only data if it's recorded, and that could be electronically or visually or written down, okay? So data is recorded information. And it can come from a variety of places. We've already discussed this: cell phones, computers, social media, your school records, DMV records, surveys. If you take a survey online, or you're standing in a line at Disneyland and someone asks you to take a survey, that's data. Okay, so the last class we did an assignment called stick figures. And in this assignment, this was a data collection assignment, you were given 8 teenagers, 8 stick figure teenagers, and you were asked to collect data on those teenagers. And then part of the assignment was you were supposed to organize all of the data and organize it in one chart or on a poster paper. And so I'm going to show you, you guys did a great job, so I'm going to show you some of the charts and visualizations that I picked out. And we'll just take a look at these. So let me click through these. So this particular student, you can see, used, looks like some bar graphs and a pie chart. And so that was that student's representation. Remember, I did not give you any directions. I just said you needed to organize all of the data. So this particular student listed all of the teenage names, the stick figure names, and then they had a category for GPA, height, sports, friends, and looks like shoe type. Okay. This particular student used the bar graph strategy. So, and then over here looked like some type of a chart, creative. This student used bar graphs. So we've got 5 different bar graphs, and then the names here with a little key. So this is nicely done, a key representing each student's name. And this one is more of a classic chart. Great job. And this one is, one of the things I like about this is the color. It's very colorful. And one of the jobs of a data scientist is to be creative in the way they organize their data. And this one you can see is using some type of bar graph. The thing that stands out is the color to me. Maybe some of the other areas could use a little work, but great job on the visualization of color. This one's very creative. We've got different colored pie graphs, and then we've got bar charts. So nicely done. And then this one uses more of a classic chart, like a spreadsheet chart, but is also using color. So we've got GPA in a certain color, friends, sports, and shoe wear. Nicely done. And then this one's very creative with color. And this one is your classic spreadsheet chart, but it's got a nice little outline here, so that's really nicely done. And this one is more of your classic chart, and this one's very clear and concise. You can see all 8 students and GPA, friends, height, sports, and shoes. Okay, so you guys did a great job on that. I'm going to give you a little bit more of a foundational way to present your data now. So let's go through some vocabulary, and then we'll talk about this spreadsheet idea. So variable. So we talk about variables. Well, what is a variable? Well, it's the general group or categories in which we organize the data. So if you're doing a survey, or you're interviewing someone, or you're observing someone or something, these are the general groups or categories. So for example, height was a variable in that stick figures. GPA was a variable. Favorite sport was a variable. Okay, so these are the general groups or categories. Case. So a case, when we're doing some type of a research study, a case is, it's each individual that data is being collected on. And this can be through a survey, a measurement, or an observation. Now a case, when we say an individual, a case could be an individual person, if you're doing some type of a survey. Medical fields do individual cases, right? We're in the middle of COVID, and the CDC, they track individual people, right? Individual cases, positive, negative, deaths, recovery rate, okay? But we can also do observations on things that are out in nature, right? If you're a zoologist and you're studying polar bears up in Alaska, then a case would be each individual polar bear. Okay. Then we can also have like an individual country, right? We could be doing research on individual countries, so the entire country would be a case. And the variables might be population and economy, things like that. Okay, observations. So we have variables, and then the observations those are the actual values that we're observing or measuring for the variable. For the variable. Let me see if, I don't know if that's in your way or not. Moving my screen there. Okay, so for the variable. All right, so some examples would be, so if we have a variable and then the observation, so height, and then the observation would be 68 inches. Gender is the variable, the observation is male. Weight is the variable, the observation is 175 pounds. Okay, so variables will have observations that are the actual data. Now, data comes in 2 forms. It comes in, can either be what's called categorical data, or it can be quantitative data. So categorical, this is data about people or things that can fit into specific groups or categories with specific qualities. So an example would be eye color. So these would have specific categories. So eye color, if we're doing a survey on eye color, that would be called categorical data, because your eye color could be brown, green, blue, yellow, hazel, right? Music genres. Grade in school. So you're either in the 9th grade or the 10th grade or the 11th grade or the 12th grade. Now, even though those are actual numbers, those are categories. And then I gave you an example here, favorite type of movie, comedy, action, romance, drama, science fiction. Those are categories. So this would be considered categorical data. Now, there's a second type of data when we are collecting data, and that is called quantitative data. Sometimes it's called numerical data, okay, because it uses numbers. But quantitative data or numerical data is data that is about something that you're measuring. So you're measuring a quantity. So for example, you could measure someone's height. You could measure someone's weight, someone's GPA. You could measure speed, how fast you're running, how fast you're driving. And when you're doing quantitative data, the numbers usually are increasing. So down here, number of brothers or sisters. So this would be considered quantitative because the numbers are increasing. Okay, so it's something that you're measuring. All right, a data table. So this is how we want to organize the data, or this would be the classic way to organize. It would be a chart or a spreadsheet which organizes the data into a way that one can visually see all of the data. So for example here, this was not part of the stick figure survey, but this is a survey that's asking for gender, politics, number of siblings, states visited, shoe size. And now you can see there's some gaps. Sometimes people don't fill out the entire survey, or they're not comfortable answering certain questions. So sometimes you just have to do the best that you can with the data that you're given. This would be an example of a data table. And some of you took this strategy when you were doing the stick figure data. And now let's talk about this kind of spreadsheet chart, the spreadsheet idea. So you have columns and rows. So the columns, those run up and down like Greek columns, so up and down. These are the rows, up and down, up and down. I'm sorry, those are the columns. I think I just said the rows, the columns. And then the rows go side to side, like a row of chairs. Okay, these are the rows going side to side. Okay, and then we have this concept of variability. When you were collecting your data on the stick figures, some of the items were similar. Some of the items, some of the students had the same favorite sport, but then there were other items that were different. And these differences is what we call variability. So when collecting data, often the responses vary and are different from one person to another. So for example, here is a survey on favorite pie flavor. And you can see there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 options, and then a 9th option was other. So there was a lot of variability. Not everyone chose the same favorite pie. Okay, so those are some foundational terms. Go ahead and fill in your handout. On the handout, there are some other questions that go with your stick figure assignment. So you're gonna have to be a little thoughtful. Some of your answers will come right off of this video, but then there are other questions that you'll have to answer where you have to be a little thoughtful in organizing the data. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense, and we will see you at the next class. All right. You guys have a great afternoon, and I'll see you.